will tell you that Ms. Knighton is going to be absent tonight. She is having some after effects of the second COVID shot that she took yesterday, so she will not be with us tonight. And we will follow our agenda as best we can. At this time, we'll stand and pledge allegiance to the flag, and after that, Reverend Poole will give our communication. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow our heads. Dear Lord, we call on you tonight to protect us with your grace and mercy, while reminding us that you are Lord of all. Thank you for your blessing. Use us to see and be a part of your plan. Help us to continue to be strong in working to help the needy, to restore unity and love in our homes and community. Bless our town manager, our mayor, and each councilman who plan and work to make Edenton a wonderful place to live. Bless the doctors and the nurses who are trying to save lives, and the police and sheriff officers who pledge to protect us. And please, Lord, let not this country, which have been flowing with milk and honey, become a land of weakness, caused by hate. Help us to continue to be strong in faith and love. Let us say amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay, the next order of business tonight is approval of the minutes for our special meeting on June the 22nd, our regular meeting of August 11th, our September the 8th meeting, and our subsequent October the 13th meeting. Now, I understand there's been some changes to be made to that, where Anne Marie said she will handle that and will make those corrections to it. All of you have had a chance to refer to that, so at this time I'll take a motion to approve the minutes with the changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now is our public hearing on the case number TA 19-03. Is a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, amending Article 10, permissible uses, Article 11, supplementary use regulations to add short-term rental as a permissible use in the R5, R10, R14, R20, RA, CD, CN zoning districts, and to establish supplemental regulations governing short-term rentals in Article 11, Section 180.14. Is Elizabeth on? Yeah, I see it. Okay, Elizabeth, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I apologize for having to Zoom with you tonight. My family is having to quarantine after one of our children was exposed at a rec basketball game of all places, but happy to have this technology. Tammy, is it possible to allow me to screen share?
Turned it on. You should be able to.
Okay. Let me see. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. All right. The first thing I want to show you is just a reminder, a photo from, well, first I'm going to show a photo or a map that shows the location of all of our short-term rentals as of January 2020. Some of you may remember that last year I did an extensive presentation on you about what we had done to that point for short-term rentals, and also what we had planned coming up for our ordinance. So just to kind of go over this with you, I think it might help orient you to where they are. The blue stars are the whole house rentals. The green stars are accessory dwellings, so that would be somebody has a garage or a guest house on their their property where they live in the primary residence and then rent the accessory structure. And then we have a couple of homestays, or those are the purple stars, and those are where the individual may rent a room within their house where they live to someone visiting the area. Okay? Let's see if I can figure out how to get the next thing I want to show you. Now I'll go to my staff report next. Let's see. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry. Why it's not coming up. You all have a copy of my staff report in your packets. So if in the event that I can't figure out how to pull this up, you should be able to follow along with it. But it's pretty basic. It reiterates what Mayor Stallings just read as far as the text amendment and what sections of the ordinance are applicable, that we are seeking to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, allow short-term rental as a permissible use in R5, R10, R14, R20, RA residential districts, as well as the downtown commercial and neighborhood commercial zoning districts. The main things to point out in the staff report are that the ordinance is proposing that accessory dwelling unit short-term rentals, or the homestays, so those are the ones where the owner may live in the principal dwelling, and let's say they have a guest house or a garage that they rent, or they have a room in their house and they reside on site. Those would be permitted through a zoning permit, which is administrative review through my office, and a $50 fee. And I would be checking that they meet the terms of the ordinance and they have all the safety requirements in place, and then that they would just receive their permit that way. Differently, whole house short-term rentals, so that would be where the person does not live on site and they're renting the whole house. We have suggested that they be allowed by zoning permit, so same procedure, in the commercial district, so an apartment above a downtown business, or a room or an apartment in a neighborhood commercial building would be permitted through a zoning permit. But in all residential districts, the whole house short-term rental would be permitted through a special use permit reviewed by the Board of Adjustment. Again, the Board of Adjustment would review based on the requirements of the ordinance, but also the 4 criteria about public health, safe wealth, injury to adjoining or to the value of adjoining or abutting property, conformity with the land use plan, and also harmony with the area in which it's located. One other thing to point out in my staff report, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to put it up on the screen, is that the planning board was very concerned about the grandfather provision. You all may remember us discussing that fairly in depth last year, or when we reviewed the last draft before sending it back to the planning board. The ordinance as it's drafted, let's see, I probably can screen share that, states that those properties that are currently in operation as a short-term rental shall have, here's my staff report, shall have 6 months. Can you see this, the ordinance
Yes,
on the screen?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna scroll so you don't look too, it's gonna be a little fast. The end of the document, Hood helped us with this section. Let's see, where did it go? It's taking a second to come up. On the grandfathering. So basically, they would have 6 months to file a permit application, whether that be a zoning permit or a special use permit, and then would be 2 years for them to have those applications processed. So that is the way the ordinance currently reads. But there are some options there, obviously, for you to consider. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest things for you to consider is whether you want to allow grandfathered short-term rentals to continue to operate with no restrictions. So that's one option. The other option would be, as the ordinance is written, to give them a time period of 6 months to make application, and then 2 years for us to process those permits and either approve or deny. Or there's also the possibility that you could consider what I've listed in my staff report, something like it, that short-term rentals established prior to the effective date of this ordinance shall be subject to review and requirements as those short-term rentals established after the date of this ordinance. Should those existing term rental lease operation for more than 365 days. In that event, their status as non-conforming uses should vote all permitting requirements required. So that was sort of in between, and let me put that in plain language. What that means is if you received information from the tax office that they had not collected any occupancy tax revenue from a certain short-term rental for over a year, we could notify them that their permit had expired or their status as a grandfathered FDR had expired, and then they were required to fill out the things to continue to operate. That's just another option. So we've talked a lot about this. Planning board has reviewed it several times. You all have reviewed it several times. Just to go over real quick, all of the different changes are highlighted colors. I know it makes it a little confusing if you're wanting to track of those changes. You can see that we've made alterations at least 4 different times. So we've done quite work on this and have got attention for it. I've had several communities reach out and ask for information from us and suggestions from us, which is flattering, I suppose. But we're happy to help you. And I'm happy to answer any questions or give you more information.
One question, Elizabeth, under section 3 of the ordinance definitions, accessory dwelling, short-term rental, should that read not to exceed 89 consecutive days, or should, like we changed it to 89 in the other?
I'm going back looking.
Yeah. It's the first.
Yes, okay, so we did, that was one of the suggestions that the planning board had made at their last meeting, was that we change the limit on the length of rental from 30 days to 89 days, because anything less than 90 days is considered by the tax office to be a short-term rental. And to make our language in line with theirs, that's the planning board suggested.
So that should change from 30 to 89, correct?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Anyone else have any questions of Elizabeth?
I just have a comment. I just want to thank Elizabeth and the planning board. They have put a lot of time into this document. It's been tweeted at least 3 or 4 times, and they have listened to all the stakeholders' comments and made changes, and I'm just real proud of the work they did. You too, Elizabeth.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Elizabeth, I'm still not clear on what areas are covered by the neighborhood commercial district. Could you sort of roughly let me know what areas that covers? My understanding is that they would just go through a normal process if there were whole house STRs, if they were in the neighborhood commercial district. Is that correct?
It says you're screen sharing, but it's a black screen. Now we have some, we have a map.
Well, I'm trying to bring this back. Right, Tammy?
We have a map now.
Okay.
Now it went away.
I'm trying to bring it back up. All right, it's the delay. I'm sorry on my end. Just talk and not interrupt when you see the map. So the commercial category is pretty spotty, actually. The most we have of it is on Street.
We have the map now.
Sorry, my okay. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. So most of the neighborhood commercial category is along Oakham Street, near the Queen Street intersection. So that little business area, it's right there near between Gable Street and Queen Street along Oakham Street. We have a few pockets of it along Edenton Street. We have one, I believe, over on North Ground, the little blue store. Have one out this way near the marina. So it's, and then further north on Oakham Street. So there's not a ton of neighborhood commercial, Councilman Coleman.
Okay,
A lot of times that is set up to allow things like someone to operate a beauty salon
okay,
in the midst of a residential district. Most of the category that's commercial, that's not highway commercial in Edenton proper is downtown commercial, which y'all are very familiar with, which is right along Broad Street and then siphons off a little bit on the side streets, all the way from Queen Street south to the water. Back to your question about how they would be regulated. The planning board felt like the commercial properties, whole house should be treated more leniently or be more encouraged, and therefore chose to review those through the zoning permit process. So let's say an apartment above Byram's Hardware, or there's one that exists, a short-term rental that exists, that the Ringelsons did above the Edenton Antique Gallery, the candy store was, that those would be reviewed just in my office administratively and encouraged. And that rentals of what you would consider a traditional single-family residence, if it's a whole house rental, would be subject to a more stringent process through the special use permit and Board of Adjustment review.
thank you, thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Elizabeth? Okay, and I may need some guidance on this to conduct a public hearing in these circumstances, but, Tammy, would you check and see if there's anyone over there that wants to make a comment or, about this?
I think you have to declare it other than declare.
Public
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
No one here for this presentation.
Okay, well, at this time, I'll declare the, public comment open for hearing, and we cannot take any public comment over Zoom. So, but as provided in the town council meeting policies during declaration of emergency, the council will delay action for a period of not less than 24 hours to allow for written comment on the proposed rezoning to be submitted by 5 p.m., which would be 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday afternoon, the 10th of February. So anyone out there that has any comments or suggestions about the situation that we're talking about, please email Anne Marie by 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Am I close to being right on that, Hank?
I think you're solid.
I think
I
you
think
did
you
a
did a
good
great job, yeah.
Okay. So, does the council have anybody on the council have anything else further to comment on this? Or? Okay. All right, at this time, then, we will delay this, we will recess on this, because we can't make any action on it tonight, so we will recess that
That's
until February the 22nd at our regular, committee meeting.
She's got that at the end of your meeting to recess the meeting to a certain date,
Yeah,
and she's recommending, Monday, February 22nd.
yeah, okay. So, we'll declare the
Public
the
hearing.
word?
Well, I think it's
Uh,
declare recess.
Yeah, we'll declare this recess until February 22nd. Okay. All right, now, we will move on to our committee reports, and the first one is our administrative committee, chaired by Councilman Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. We have 4 items that we need to discuss tonight. The first 2 items are related, and I'd like to summarize what those are, and then I believe we have either one or both of Jay Talbert and/or Stephen Bright with us via Zoom, and they're our aviation engineering consultants that help us out on all matters related to the airport. But to summarize the 2 items at our January committee meeting, we decided that we would come to full council with the recommendation that council approve a grant agreement with the North Carolina Division of Aviation for the engineering and design phase of runway 1-19 pavement and lighting rehabilitation project, as that was presented at that meeting. The second related item, the council comes before, or the committee comes before full council seeking approval of a work authorization with Talbert and Bright for them to begin those engineering and design services for the same runway 1-19 pavement and lighting rehabilitation project as that was presented at our committee meetings. And once we hear from either Jay or Stephen, we will put that in the form of a motion that we approve the grant agreement and also the work authorization. But Jay or Stephen, if you're with us now, can you fill in any blanks that need to be filled in on either one of those action items?
This is Jay Talbot. Thank you for having us this evening. I guess I don't know of any blanks that need to be filled in. I think it is hopefully important and relevant to point out that this grant agreement covers 100% of all of the costs that the town will incur on this project. So we were able to, it was a team effort, but to work with the airport committee and Anne Marie and get the typical local share paid for by the North Carolina Division of Aviation. And through our design process, it will be our intent to try to get the construction of the project, which is anticipated to be between $4 and $4.5 million, to get it entirely eligible for state funding as well. So, and it would be a complete reconstruction of the primary runway at the airport, runway 119, and replacement of the airfield lighting and signage system.
Okay, before anybody have any questions of Jay before we proceed?
Did you say 4.5 million?
He did. He sure did. Okay, Jay, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. And as it relates to the first action item, I would place in the form of a motion that council approve the grant agreement with North Carolina Division of Aviation for the engineering and design phase of runway 1-19 pavement and lighting rehabilitation project as that was presented. So I make that motion and seek a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And Jay, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mayor. And the second item, and I place this in the form of a motion, the committee recommends that council approve the work authorization for Talbert and Bright for the engineering and design services for runway 1-19 pavement and lighting rehabilitation project, as that recommendation was presented at our last committee meeting. And put that in form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 3, I am going to ask that we table that item until our February 22nd committee meetings. That probably deserves some more discussion. You will recall that we have received an offer for the old landfill property that adjoins our airport. And we had talked about at the last committee meeting that we adopt a resolution similar to ones that we've used here in town that would authorize an upset bid process for us to go through for the sale of that property. There have been some questions that we need to take a deeper look at, the value and some of the other procedures involved, and that would probably be best discussed in a committee meeting as opposed to a full council meeting. So with everyone's permission, I would just ask that that be tabled until February 22nd. And hopefully Anne Marie, once she gets back on her feet, can help us address those concerns that have been raised.
Okay.
So we have no action that's requested on that one. The next item, item number 4, it's recommended that the council approve the grant agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for the project acceleration plan that was presented. You'll recall that was to come up with a future plan, a vision plan for bicycle and pedestrian use in and around town. You also will recall that the amount of that grant was $35,000 for us to come up with a plan and seek assistance in doing so. It does require a $3,500 match of our own funds in order to do that. And once we discussed it, we decided that it would be recommended that we approve that grant agreement, and I put that in the form of a motion that we approve that grant agreement.
We have a motion and we have a second.
Second.
We have 2 seconds. All right, any further discussion?
I think that's a great
I
idea.
think
I'm
it's
excited about that. I think that'll be a good thing for us to do for the town.
Have we discussed where this bike route is supposed to go yet?
No, that's far as
Started agreeing on something here?
We just agreeing to do it. And then
Yeah, but
they,
you agreeing to do it, but you ain't made no where the bike route is gonna go at.
that's the planning process that they
So
gonna
we
do.
gonna spend the money before we agree on what's gonna take place.
3,500.
Yeah, but I think we would reserve the right to say we don't like that plan, can you come back with another one? I think that it,
I mean, they haven't done the plan yet. They said you have to pass this first.
So you got,
Then they give you the plan.
put the money up front.
Well, I don't think it's due till it's, I don't know that. I have no idea.
there was, I don't have Anne Marie here, and I would rely upon her normally on that. There's a time frame that there was a table that I think was shared with us at the last meeting about what all the deadlines were. But as I understand the process, the planning comes later with input from us, from the community, as to what we would want. And I know you and I talked about particular areas of town where we're interested in making sure there's some sidewalks put there. So we would have input, the public would have input, and we would work with them and hopefully come up with a plan that most, if not all of us, can be somewhat pleased with.
And I'm in total agreement about the sidewalk. You know, I think we need to look, if we're looking at underserved neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks.
Yeah, and that's what Councilman Bond and I discussed. They need to make sure we look at all neighborhoods and just not certain neighborhoods when it comes to good sidewalks.
We don't need to upgrade sidewalks unless we have sidewalks everywhere. Road one.
Well, that's kind of the way we think. We need to take a look, because there are some areas that have a real need for it. Now, you and I discussed it also.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. All right, do we, I'm lost now, do we need a motion on that? Or did you hear something?
Where you going?
I believe we have a motion and a second, just need to make sure we vote on it.
Okay, all right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That concludes our business from the Administrative Committee, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Hyde. The next is our Finance Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Dixon.
And this is so brief, it's recommended that the council approve a general fund, amendment to, fund the exterior repairs to town hall. And if y'all remember, we saw pictures last time of the, facade of the town hall needs some work, and so that's what that's for. So I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Glad it's getting done.
Yeah. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, the next item on our agenda is under new business, and that is the adoption of capital project ordinance engineering and design of the runway 1-19 pavement and lighting rehabilitation. And we've just discussed that, so
I'd make a motion that we adopt that ordinance. We need to pay for it, so. Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want, I was out there Saturday, and it really is amazing what we're doing to that, how well that airport looks. And there were a couple of great big planes out there,
Yeah,
and it was really astonishing to see that.
yeah. We're so blessed to have this airport that
Yeah.
we have. I mean, Elizabeth City doesn't have all the finalities that we have with that. So we're very blessed to have that. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, and the next thing is adoption of small capital project ordinance, North Carolina Department of Transportation Project Acceleration Planning Grant. And that's, we also discussed that a few minutes ago, Councilman.
We did, and I would move that we adopt the small capital project ordinance for the acceleration planning grant program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say that, I'd like to ask a question, just out of my own curiosity. How long is this runway supposed to be, and how big a plane would be able to land there after the runway?
A big one.
Yeah, a big.
I don't know how big, but a
That
big
was a
one.
big plane, Saturday that landed there.
B-52? B-52?
Yeah.
And they didn't have
I
any
think-
trouble at all.
I can find out for you, Councilman Poole, but I've always been told right up to right under the very, very biggest. It's an unbelievably long runway.
Oh.
It's amazing we have something like this.
It's on the Marine base.
Yeah, it was huge, it was bigger than this building.
I know a friend of mine landed this out there at the airport about 6 months
If you
ago.
gotta do something, you gotta do it for the future.
Yeah, yeah. What,
You know
with a different crowd
than I do.
you know,
I said you know with a different crowd than I do.
y'all remember when Wayne Heisinger flew the Miami Dolphins jet in, and that was, I don't know what it was, but it was big. I mean, it looked like something you fly to, to New York in,
Yeah.
or maybe California.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, the next item on our agenda is items considered timely and important. Anybody up here have anything that they need to discuss with the rest of the council?
I just want to say the road resurfacing project seems to be going well. I know it's bad weather set in, it's put things behind a little bit, but it's really looking good. I've heard a lot of positive comments from different communities about what's going on in their neighborhoods.
And it's amazing, but that little bit of snow we had last week really played havoc with some of the streets too.
Yes.
just that little bit of snow
Yeah,
we had, and especially as quickly as it went away.
Yeah. And the curb and guttering's looking good too, so.
Yeah, yeah, they look very nice, they sure do.
Mayor Stines, related to that, I had a question, and I know Anne Marie's not here. I don't know if any of you guys who've been on here longer than Roger and I could answer this, but is the intersection of Broad Street and Church Street right there by the post office, is that a state-maintained portion of our roadways?
Broad Street is, the entirety of Broad Street up to the Exxon station is state maintained, yes.
And the reason I ask, hopefully we can push forward something with the state so that that intersection can be improved and repaired, because I myself, and I've seen a number of other people, feel like you almost have to go around that big hole and keep on filling it in with gravel.
Yeah.
And that's a major intersection in town. It's a bad look for us. It's beating people's
is.
cars up, and just been getting a lot of questions and complaints about that.
I wonder if our public works was gonna asphalt that area. I haven't heard any.
I'm not sure.
Well, it's a state maintained road, I don't think,
We're still,
I don't think we
still
have the
patch-
authority
still
to
do
do it.
some patching on state maintained roads, I've seen on Granville Street.
But there's a lot of problems on Broad Street that need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see us put a crosswalk over to the farmer's market, because I saw some people the other day having a hard time getting across
Yeah.
Main Street, you know, and it was just, I think we need some crosswalks, especially at the, and we talked about that.
Are we not
before.
earmarked by the state to resurface, Broad Street? Isn't that down the road somewhere?
I
I
don't
mean,
know. We had a
It's
plan
down
to
the road
do
or
more
Down the
about
road somewhere.
And that's the bad thing about it, it's down the road.
Down the road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what was it, the state auditor said some time ago that the Department of Transportation is writing checks every day they can't cash.
And Mayor Stiles, I did have three more things, and I'll be brief, that I'd like to, the council to consider, and perhaps join in a request I'd like to make. But the three things that I get asked most about in the community are, what is the status of the second grocery store, what is the status of the brew pub, and what is the status of Hotel Hinton? And I sense, as people are asking me, they're very, very frustrated about the lack of information coming from us, and I explained to them that I know you're getting tired of hearing we're working on it and things are happening behind the scenes. I get tired of saying it, they get tired of hearing it, they get frustrated, and in turn I get frustrated. And in the short time that I've been up here, one of the things I like most has been able to address constituent concerns fairly quickly and fairly directly, and we're just not able to do that. It's not our fault though. We're not being provided information, but it is our fault if we don't request periodic updates. And so what I'd like to request, and I discussed it with Anne Marie, is that either via Zoom, virtually, or a written report, that we receive some type of report in March on all three of those projects from somebody that
No,
is close to each one of those projects.
I think
I would prefer that it not be a summary from Anne Marie. I
We're all
would
waiting
like
to
to
hear
hear.
this, and
We're all
Yeah,
very
for
good,
that,
and I agree 100%. I think you're exactly right. I did hear Jennifer this morning at the GDE meeting talk about the Hotel Hinton, and that the roof on
Mhm.
it has been replaced, and I think everybody is frustrated about that issue. No one, you know, I don't think they have actually answered anybody's questions about it, but the partnership has been working on that. Jennifer with DDE has been working on that, and I don't think no one has an answer. They just keep kicking the can down the road, is to my knowledge, to what I've seen about it.
Mayor,
Yes,
with the brew pub, I've been told this Mr. Glover is committed to this project. And when he's going to start moving on, I don't know, but I understand he is committed to do something there.
Well, I'd like to hear that from him
Yeah.
or somebody that's working
well.
for him.
Yeah.
and so far as the grocery store, as I understand it, that the owner of the shopping center is trying to bargain with a bank, trying to get a bank that will loan him the money to put the type front on it that the Piggly Wiggly wants on that.
Okay.
That was the last that I heard about it. But heck, I agree with you 100%. We need to hear this from the from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to hear that. We deserve to hear that.
And just one last comment. I was down in Washington this past weekend, and Washington is about twice the size of Edenton, but they also compete for the same type of tourists that enjoy small coastal towns that have some history to them. And not just on the books, but actually having work done on them. They have 3 brewery projects downtown going on right now, and 1 downtown hotel project going on. And I'm talking about hammers and nails and saws and all that out, getting the work done.
Who's doing their hotel project? That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's doing it, but you know, it's a race to be popular. It's a race to get those tourist dollars.
Yeah.
And it's a race to get good publicity, and if we're falling behind one of our competitors, that's not good.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we're all of one accord and all on the same page.
Absolutely.
On all 3 of these items. Thank you for bringing it up.
Do you know if the town of Washington's done anything to help with those projects?
I can reach out and find out. I don't know for sure.
Anyone else? Have anything, comments? Okay, then I will entertain a,
No, we have someone that wants to speak.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I remember that. Sometimes when Kenny hangs up, I'm sorry, you know, have something you want to talk about? Just go to the podium, sir, if you will, tell us who you are and where you live.
Louis Drew, live on Paradise Road. I come to check on, I talked to Mrs. Knight last week, and I was talking to her about natural gas out on Paradise Road. And I'd like to check where the drugstore is going. Do the railroad still have access to that property going across the tracks?
Sam, as a part of that closing process, it was a private transaction, and we just had to approve the design and the moving of the road and all that. If I'm not mistaken, I thought they were able to get releases from the railroad, releasing any interest they had on that portion.
I think so.
Of the
I'm not
property.
sure. I mean, I'm not.
I don't know for sure, so I don't want to tell you.
And railroads are notorious for only releasing what you want them to release. I mean, Hood's on that. Do you know Hood?
Our town attorney. He's
No.
I'm not sure I understood the question.
Hood, we've got a citizen here who asked us, does the railroad, the portion of the CVS project, does the railroad still own that property, or did they release and/or deed that property over to the CVS people?
They did.
I think they abandoned that right away to the CBS developer.
Okay, that's what I thought. Does that answer your question, sir?
They abandoned that, but what about Paradise Road and Battle Road? The railroad track is not there anymore.
Yeah. Sambo can tell you about it. Railroads are hard to deal with, and I think CVS was lucky to get them to abandon that part of it. I'm not sure, I'm pretty certain as a part of the CVS project, they didn't abandon it all the way down the line.
I don't know that.
2 years to.
They normally
What's that?
don't abandon anything unless.
Yeah, it's took them 2 years
Yeah.
to get it done.
But you're asking whether natural gas is gonna come down Paradise Road?
That's what I'm.
It ain't coming down, it ain't
That's
coming
what
down
I'm.
Paradise Road.
Natural gas going down Paradise Road.
It's not coming down Paradise Road,
It's not?
no. The reason I say that, for 6 years, I've been trying to get it on Hereford Road in the Hereford Road community. That new bed and breakfast, the old Spates House that they opened up last year, they ran natural gas to it and further down the road and said, that's it. They will not bring natural gas nowhere in that community.
So it stopped around the Cotton Gin Inn.
Hmm?
It stopped around the Cotton Gin Inn.
Went past Cotton Gin all the way down to your to those storage bins down there.
Okay. And it stopped.
And on Cork Avenue, they service all the way to that new development of houses and come down past that, but they won't run it any further.
And they won't cross Pembroke Creek to get out there where I live.
Yeah, they won't.
So,
They won't run it any further.
is there anywhere higher up we can go, on that?
We've,
They're
I
utility.
think we tried a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I
tried,
think
like I
they're
said-
utility, so they're under state,
Yeah.
are they under some state guidelines and state control?
I
don't know.
talked to the gentleman a couple of months ago about crossing Pembroke Creek,
Mhm.
and he said he had requested that the company, he had requested he said it was gonna cost $750,000 to cross that creek and to get out there to where I live,
Mhm.
and that he had requested that from the company, but I've been talking to him about it for 4 or 5 years. I'd love to have it out there, but like Elton said, they scratched their feet and they said, I'm not gonna do this, or I'm not going any further, or whatever.
When was the last time we took a look at it, or tried to make a request?
about 2 years
About
ago.
2 years ago, yeah. We had a meeting at the Assembly of God Church out there, and, they weren't very optimistic about it at all.
Cause he told me that the houses on Hereford Road wasn't big enough.
Wasn't big enough for them to earn any money, is that what he meant?
Did you show him your house?
No, mine one of the smallest ones out there.
Sorry, we couldn't give you a good
They
answer.
only have, one line going through Edenton there, that's the one going, past Carlin Towers and behind the housing authority. All the rest of it is big. So,
What, natural gas?
it's railroad track.
Oh, no.
Sir, we haven't given you an answer, but that's because we don't have one.
We love to be able to help you, but I don't, know what we can do. We'd like to have it everywhere.
Yeah.
So y'all don't know yet whether it's gonna come down or it's not?
No, sir, we do not.
Maybe we can get together with Anne Marie and
Yeah,
see if she can,
I can't
knows
remember
who to go to.
I can't remember the guy's name, so, well, I got his telephone number, but I can't remember what his name was.
Mhm.
Yeah, cause he came into the chamber here and gave
Yeah.
a
We can push that.
presentation to us.
And get with Anne Marie and just find out what we can do.
But I think it would be worthwhile to
Yeah.
get him back in here again
Yeah.
and let him talk to us.
Keep on asking, keep on pushing.
Do you remember his name?
I'm sorry,
You don't remember his name?
I don't, but I'll give you his telephone number. I have it under somebody else's name, is why.
It's frustrating, sir, but,
Yeah, it's a lot of people out in that area wanting natural gas.
Yeah.
Natural gas is so expensive.
I know.
They can't hardly afford it.
I know Shoreline Brewers would like to have it.
I
They're
know.
out there.
Craig, what is number that?
Being that it's all around the city,
339.
those sections can't get it.
4956, and he answers, when he answers the phone, he answers with his name, so you'll have it then.
Well, I wonder if one angle you could take, Councilman Miller was talking about, the nursing home or assisted living facility out there, nursing home, would like to have it.
They want it out there in the rest.
Sure.
I mean, that's a big
It's a
enough
big-
building,
it's a
they
big-
might have some motivation to
Yeah.
take it on out. I don't know if we've approached that angle yet, but,
That's a good angle to approach. So,
because
I'm
if they're,
gonna give him a call.
That's all of us give them a
Yeah,
call.
well, yeah, flood him with calls. Thank you,
We're on your
thank
side,
you for
sir.
bringing that up to us.
Okay, out on Paradise Road, I got beside the river, okay. If water stays in that ditch year round, I don't know why, I don't know where it's coming from, but water stays in those ditches out there year round, and it's bad for mosquitoes and snakes out there.
Is that in front of your house?
him, across, no, it's not in front of the house, it's on the side. I live further down, but the ditches out there, one of them is covered up. I mean, you can't hardly, water standing in the ditch now, and, it's stopped up. Right at the pipe, it's stopped up and the water's not running out of it. Instead of water running down the pipe, it's running in the yard. Running in between my house and the other house, and water just stands there. Water standing in the yard now. And when water stands like that, it soaks in the ground and it goes under the cement and goes under my house, and that causes my house is gonna get mildew and stuff. So it's no good.
I'm trying to figure out, you stay in front of Blue Collar, the old Riddick house? Is that, you stay right across from there, right?
Right there.
Okay,
So do you know where he's talking about that the ditch is stopped up?
yeah, I know where you're talking about.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I will try to talk to Corey tomorrow
Yeah.
and see if he can take a look at that.
Yeah, but water, when it rains, water runs out of that little ditch in the yards. It runs right between my house and Mr. Hall house, and it just sits there. And water's sitting in the yards now, between my house and his house, and don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So, instead of it running somewhere, it just sits there and soaks into the ground.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir, and we will certainly take a look at it.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Tammy, was anyone else over there that? Okay. All right. If no one else has anything, anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're recessing.
Recess.
Recess, excuse me, recess until February 22nd. Thank you, Tammy.
Good.